Hello, guys, and welcome to High School E-League Week 2. We currently are casting the Tasmanian round of our good old guys. What are the teams called again, Yatos?
On the left side of that, we have Elizabeth College's Bronze Boys, and on the right side, so on the red side, we will have Calvin Christian School's team Disfunctional. Now, these two teams, we've been doing a little bit of research, but specifically, something that's going to be interesting is what picks these teams go for. Because if we look at the patch that they are playing in 8.11, a lot was changed this patch that these teams need to adapt to.
Exactly. Now, with all the scaling that comes from crit, there's been a few changes in regards to like, these early game ADCs. Essence Reaver has been such an amazing item for so many different champions. So one of the things that we have to note though is power spikes. So you look at like second item power spikes, third item power spikes. There's different levels of scaling, but Storm Razor seems to be that one item that gives you an amazing first item power spike, and then a bit of a weaker second item with still a good third item depending on your build path. But it allows you to stay relevant against a lot of these other early game ADCs that are so dominant in this meta.
Exactly. We look at the stuff like the Kai'Sa, for example, the Ezreal, and even the Lucian have spiked up a lot recently. So it's going to be quite exciting to see. So the real question, what they choose for these AD carries is going to be interesting because are they going to go for something that's aggressive early, or are they going to pick something be like, we'll submit the early game and choose the later game scaling champions, for example, like the Caitlyn or the Tristana, which once they get to their 3-4 items, oh boy, do they hurt.
Yes, indeed. And so we do have it's crit items that tries to change as well, and then IE, it's no longer the item that you can get first, like on your Tristana or something like that for that amazing crit initially, but it's now a scaling crit item, so it doubles any crit chance you may have. So you get one crit item that's 30%, add the IE, suddenly you have 60%. On a Yasuo, that means by the time you get IE anyway, you have 100% because it doubles what has been doubled. So it's obviously 120%, which caps at 100% for those of you who understand mathematics.
I mean, imagine if you get 120% crit, it does that much extra damage. That's going to really hurt because if you can get 100% crit with a double Zeal Infinity Edge build in an AD carry, so something like, I'd say, a Jinx, which does fantastic late game scaling, if you go for a full crit build against a no tank lineup, oh, that nothing else, that screams a lot of damage.
And also, I do believe that the IE actually does do a bit of extra crit damage as true damage in its passive. So even if it's against a tank lineup, crit is going to like scale with that extra 15% true damage. And against tanks, this is huge. You're ignoring all armor. So you're facing off, just say you have a full AD lineup, you're facing up against Nautilus with 420 armor. I have PTSD from this. And next thing you know, you're doing 15% crit, true damage with your crit. This is insane, Adalast Whisper, and this guy's going down.
And there's also another thing to take in. There are some AD carries that are running Conqueror. Specifically, I remember the Misfortune and the Draven. Quite a few of them are running Conqueror, which in of itself is more true damage. So we'll have to see if we get that thing. Because if they pick a tanky lineup and they lock something like those champions in, your tanks are good, but true damage is easily better. So I'm really excited to see what we get out of this bot lane, especially in 8.11.
Indeed, and funny you should mention the Conqueror, because Conqueror has actually changed the overlay of the entire top lane. So in the past, a lot of champions have been rushing that Black Cleaver to get the armor shred because every other top laner is tanky. But now you have these true damage champions coming in with so much burst. You don't actually need to get the Black Cleaver anymore. You can go the Triforce because it gives you so much more damage. And Conqueror's already ignoring the armor, so you don't need the extra armor shred. So without the Black Cleaver, you're already doing amazing with just the Triforce alone.
Exactly. So we'll have to see what they end up picking, but we will be loading into Champion Select very soon. And before we do go in there, of course, we do want to do a bit of a shout out to the High School Esports League. Of course, this is the event that we are running. And first and foremost, in my opinion, the teachers and the schools, the ones that are letting these kids go for this massive scale opportunity, because this is a interstate tournament. You are versing schools all across your state, and the fact that these schools and teachers are willing to get these students together and throw them into an event like this is, in my opinion, a huge step forward, especially when we look at esports in Australia.
Indeed, and this is something that I didn't have when I was in high school. So in high school, I remember you had your sports, or you went on the oval, and if you were an introverted kid like I was back then, it was something that you really struggled to interact with others about. So once again, massive shout out to everyone who's involved in organizing and running this, because this is something that everyone wants and everyone will enjoy.
Exactly. So because huge thank you to that. So we will be getting into the Champions League of Elizabeth College going up against Calvin Christian. So of course Elizabeth College's Bronze Boys are on the left-hand side, and they first opted to take away from the Dr. Mundo. So not interesting, but what is not surprising to anyone who's been watching 8.11, Kaiser taken away. She is not allowed on the Rift.
So Mundo and Kaiser are both some of those obnoxious picks you have seen in both solo queue and competitive to a certain extent. Mundo with that insane scaling had to be nerfed quite a bit in regards to like how much he could heal up and how much the cost is, all of that. As for Kaiser, let's be honest, Kaiser's still making up for the fact that when she was released, she had a 36% win rate.
Indeed, but no, we've got a double AD carry ban for the side of Disfunctional. I think they don't want to let the AD carry of Bronze Boys get access to anything that is strong. We talked earlier, the Kaiser, the Lucian, Ezreal, really strong picks. 2 of them have been denied already, and Caitlyn as well. If these teams need to look at what AD carries their players can play, because this champion pool is getting slimmer and slimmer.
Oh, indeed, and I do believe after checking out one of the teams did actually have a gold level. One of the teams did actually have a gold level ADC on their side, so there may be target bans for that. I do believe it was on the side of the Disfunctional team, which is on the red side. So it's interesting that they want to get them a very specific matchup, or they want to like get rid of something like the Lucian and the Kaiser, which can actually be very good bully lanes, especially with Lucian being so prominent now with the new Essence Reaver.
Yeah, definitely. And Essence Reaver we can talk about a bit more when we see champions locked in, because Essence Reaver can be played in, I've seen top lane Essence Reaver, I've seen bottom lane Essence Reaver, but Tristana is locked in. So we've had a lot of AD carry bans, and we talked earlier about how stuff like that is less crit oriented seems a lot stronger in the early game. So this Tristana, when it comes to late game champions, I think there are very few who go bar to bar with a Tristana, but the real question will be, Pro, can she get there?
Well, Tristana has always been amazing with getting those towers down, doing that objective control, because of how much damage she does to towers. In addition, she doesn't have a massive amount of AoE damage in teamfights, but she's got good resets with her rocket jumps.
Exactly, but I get a little excited because we've seen on the other side for Disfunctional, Darius with Flash Ghost locked in. Now, Bro Science has been running this for quite a while now. We did do a bit of our research into our players, and Bro Science is going to be running Conqueror with this, and oh boy, is this Darius going to hurt.
And both Yatos and I, who play a lot of top lane, know the fear of a Darius you see. Like, your Darius can continuously reset that Conqueror with the bleeds, so you can continually do that true damage, and it is definitely a bully that is very hard to deal with. A lot of our champ pools, like your Nasus, your Jax, your Chogats, a lot of these champions that usually like scale up, they often don't outscale the Darius because they're so far behind.
Exactly, so I'll have to see where they go, but for the side of Bronze Boys, they have not opted to pick their top laner just yet. Instead, they go for a Karthus and Alistar, which, I mean, the support-wise isn't too unconventional, but the Karthus isn't something you see a whole lot, at least when you look at, solo queue. Karthus is a bit of an outlier. So is this more of a personal comfort pick more than anything else?
Well, I've been looking at Midnerd's OP.GG, and he actually has a 6.11 KDA in ranked on his Karthus. Not a lot of games played, but this does go to show that this lane bully Karthus does actually work with 100% win rate.
Okay, we've talked before, Inept Kangaroo, you said earlier, is one of the stronger players, at least rank-wise on the side of Disfunctional. Look what the ban for coming in from Bronze Boys is. They are focusing him out in the terms of AD carry, and I really worry, like, if they ban out something like the Ezreal here, what else is available to him that's actually going to be able to match Tristana toe-for-toe?
Honestly, a lot of champs can match Tristana toe-for-toe. One of the biggest issues about facing Tristana is that she's so safe in lane. And that's one thing that you always got to take into account. So we see the Twitch ban coming in as well. So Twitch is a really good hyper carry and actually has been coming back into the meta a bit after the nerfs that came in. So we're going to see. So it's good to see that they've decided to take out this. They've got the Alistar, they've got the Tristana. So they show they can jump onto this bot lane, and it's actually a pretty good pick with the Soraka, and if it's a Varus, then they've actually got a very safe lane that will be able to outpoke this Alistar Tristana combo.
And it looks like it is indeed the Varus, so they're going for a bit more of a poke harass style, but I just worry when I look at that, if Alistar can get a good headbutt pulverize without the silence of Soraka, and Tristana follows up for a jump, they've got great poke, but when Tristana gets in your face with an explosive charge rapid fire, is there enough damage to survive that trade?
It's all about how much heal the Soraka can get, and the disengage. Like Alistar is really good into a champion like Soraka as long as you can get onto them, because then you can just get in his face, lock him down, and Soraka wants to be the one who's not getting hit. You want him to be healing because he's got a lot of healing, but it does appear that there has been a dodge.
I'm suspecting that was a part of it where they didn't lock in, they didn't coordinate which champion they wanted, and it was a panic lock in Twisted Fate. So I don't know if that will count or not, but let's talk about what we have seen so far, because this bot lane, we can see what the bot lanes are. It's Tristana and Alistar going up against the Varus and Soraka. So in terms of scaling, of course, we do know that Tristana, if anyone's played against Tristana that's gotten online, it is a terrifying force to behold. Varus, he isn't one of the AD carries we've mentioned, but he doesn't have to go for a crit focus build. So how do we look at Varus's scaling in at least in comparison to the Tristanas?
Well, if anyone's seen, I do believe I was once watching a high elo player called Katsuri, who's now actually in the OCS. First time I saw this guy playing in a tournament, this guy was a god in Varus. He used the high movement speed, the high range, the high carry potential, the ultimate. He's just it's so good at keeping a good distance and doing a lot of damage and getting that hyper carry online. So Varus is one of those champions that when you get your Gwynsus, you get your unhit items, you do a lot of AoE damage to an entire team, as well as offering a lot of poke. You offer the Grievous Wounds, you offer the CC, the Engage, the Disengage. Varus is a full package. For a long time, he was a dark horse. He was really strong, yet no one really mentioned him, even though he was A tier or almost S tier in some cases before he had to get peeled back a bit, to be honest.
So it's really interesting to see, because of course people don't. The Gwynsu's Rage Blade, specifically in 8.11, seems to be the signal to whether an AD carry is able to compete in the early stage of the thing. Because we talk about the AD carries that got taken away, the Kai'Sa, for example, and such. That is an AD carry that rushes the Gwynsu's Rage Blade, and Varus should be rushing it as well, assuming they're going to go for this early contention where they're probably going to try to force an objective. But if they get this Gwynsu's Rage Blade completed before the Tristana is able to complete, for example, her Storm Raiders, will they try and do some forcing some early objectives, such as an early Dragon or an early Rift Herald?
Actually, funny that you mentioned that. So one thing we haven't seen is the mid laner for the side of Disfunctional. So one thing to know is that with a lot of these Gwynsu's Rage Blade, like your Kai'Sa and your Varus, as a lot of people haven't really been mentioning, is there's this AP build that does on-hit damage, like it does percentage health damage because of the scalings. You got your Nashor's Tooth, you got your Rabadons, you got your Gwynsu's, and you do a lot of AP damage with these AD carries. And what this can actually do, because in the past, traditionally, your mid laners have had to go to AP just to make sure you don't go into a full AD lineup. But your mid laner could possibly go for something like a Zed or a Talon, which has very good roaming early, very good early game damage, and can abuse the Storm Raiders and lethality. So maybe this Varus pick could be allowing their mid laner to open up into a more AD assassin style plan to shut down the Karthus and shut down the side lanes as well. So this is one thing we have to look at when we're looking at this Varus pick as well.
Exactly. So if they are going to be, so let's go with that theory of they will be opening up for a more of an assassin mid laner. So I do like this idea if they go for, especially because Karthus, he's a great control mage, but if he gets someone up in his face, his Defile just is not going to be enough a lot of the time to secure himself a kill. So if we look on the mid lane of the side of Disfunctional, who do we expect then to see as a mid laner? Are we going to go for more of this AD one-shot assassin such as a Zed or a Yasuo? Although I don't suspect a Yasuo because we have a Darius top. So something like a Yasuo, a Zed, apologies. Or would it be more of an AP burst assassin like a LeBlanc or a Syndra to try and keep this Karthus down?
Well, one thing that we haven't actually talked about is the fact that I do not believe we've seen an Aurelia ban. And I've seen the Aurelia into Karthus matchup, and it does not look good on the Karthus because of the mobility of the Aurelia. So I do believe that Aurelia, due to the ability to get onto targets, followed by the Udyr, and the fact that you can keep this front line of Udyr, Karthus, Udyr, Aurelia, and Darius all healthy with the Soraka, it could just mean that this mid lane could actually be an Aurelia pick.
I mean, it is an option, and in 8.11, Aurelia mid has been spiking a lot more. Hell, in 8.10, Aurelia mid started poking up, and she does fantastically into mages. I'm trying to recall if it's a Zoe that Aurelia is considered a counter matchup to. So Aurelia mid is definitely a possibility. I mean, hell, we've had the meta of Sion mid for some time, so it's not outside of the realm of possibilities to see an unconventional mid lane here, especially into a Karthus who I think Izon himself is fair to say is a bit of an unconventional mid laner himself. But what I do like about the Karthus pick is the map play you can make. Because of course, you can never forget that the Karthus Requiem does a deceptive amount of damage. And like if your bot lane takes a poor trade and then suddenly you think, oh, we got away with no health. And then you hear the Song of the Deaf coming for you.
And especially if the Karthus actually gets ahead. So a Karthus ahead is one of the scariest things in your life because you got this massive global 5-man ultimate just coming all around. And if you're fed and your ADC is squishy or you don't have like a decent amount of shielding or healing or you got someone low, then that is a scary thing with a Karthus that's far enough ahead to do like a third or even half of your health bar. And that's not something you want to do just before a team fight or even after a team fight.
Exactly, and of course, what I love about Karthus as a champion is there was this style of Karthus where you ran with Ghost Flash, and you, in the middle of a team fight, you would simply flash into the heart of the enemy team with your Defile running, pop your Wall of Pain for the Wall of Pain, apologies, for the reduced magic resistance on enemy champions, die, and then of course with the passive, you have 7 seconds, you have more than enough time to cast your Requiem, and I believe the nickname was Suicide Karthus because you would jump in, you would get killed, but you would ensure all your damage comes out, and you could single-handedly tear a team's health bar apart if they stood in your Defile long enough.
I do believe that Bill was around for a while before Tobias Fate actually popularized it. So Tobias Fate, as everyone knows, Gangplank main. He also plays quite a bit of Twisted Fate in Karthus, but he has a habit of going for these high damage builds. So he was the one who popularized the crit plank. And with Karthus, you just go full AP and you absolutely shut people down, which is it's quite impressive. But seeing as the barriers on mid nerd, maybe he's going for a more survival style of Karthus and only die if his mana is low enough so he can keep using his spells.
We'll have to see, because I think he may change the round depending on his matchup. If he gets someone who does want to be trying to kill him constantly, as we've discussed earlier, then yeah, I suspect a barrier would be the better option, or maybe even swapping to an exhaust if he's against an all-in assassin like a Zed or a Talon. But if he's against something like a Syndra who's going to try and burst him out from distance, then I definitely think the barrier is the correct option. So we'll have to see, as we are repeating through the champions like as previously, and nothing overly surprising here is it's exactly repeat. So I asked the question of, we know it's a Darius top lane. What do Bronze Boys run for their top lane to deal with this Darius? Do they run a tank and try and sustain it, or do they run a bruiser and try and match tick for tack?
That's a really good question. So we did see the Twisted Fate lock in, but we don't know if that was a mistake or if that was something else. So Twisted Fate top lane would be a very interesting pick. It could be a Twisted Fate jungle even, which I've seen used for mixed results. Although it's a bit of a more of a niche pick. Shaklon though is hovering the Nunu, and I have seen on his OP2GG he has obviously got quite a few games with Shaco, but he's gone for the Vi.
Now Vi, I believe, is one of these solo queue junglers who's always had a high win rate, because you pick a target and they don't get to play anymore for a good 5 or 6 seconds because you hit them with the assault and battery, and then you can hit them with a Vault Breaker, which still knocks them airborne. So that's a good 5 or 6 seconds in a team fight where you can't stop the Vi, and she stops, ideally, the Varus probably from 3 hitting away. So I really, really like this as a pick because it does a little bit of everything. So we'll have to see what the final pick is, and it is the Twisted Fate. So this might be a Twisted Fate top or a Karthus top, and either way, it should be enough distance to keep away from the Darius.
Indeed, and we do have a Nunu hover on the other side, so we do have the Udyr jungle, so Nunu is probably not likely. We're going to see the mid laner coming in here from the side of the Disfunctional team. But of course, it is the Zoe, though. Zoe into Karthus. Zoe with all that range and burst may just be the counter they need to deal with this Karthus in lane.
I mean, I can definitely see the theory behind it. Zoe, if she catches Karthus with a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, Karthus is not inherently that tanky. And he could easily get one shot because he does a lot of damage, but if he's not positioned properly behind his caster minions and that Zoe catches him out of position, oh boy, is that going to hurt.
Yeah, because Karthus, for all intents and purposes, is very squishy. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Zoe can get into the targets, and it's literally a matter of can the Zoe pick out the targets like the Twisted Fate and the Karthus and the Tristana? Because Vi's going to be bruiserish and Alistar's going to be tanky. So we're going to see a lot come out of the Alistar to try and keep them alive. We're going to see but aside from that, we don't really see a lot of burst. We see a lot of all in potential, but not a lot of engage except for single target engage on the Varus and Zoe. Maybe an AoE engage with the Varus with the ultimate, but it's going to be very difficult to get these niche engages, or we're going to see like how it goes because there doesn't seem to be a lot of standardized engage from these teams.
Yeah, there definitely isn't. I mean, you look on the side of him, there's no one who, the first person, in my opinion, to start a fight for the side of Dysfunctional is the Udyr by running him in, or the Zoe with a Sleepy Trouble Bubble. But other than that, there isn't a fantastic lock. While you compare it to Bronze Boys, they're running an Alistair, who is basically a point-and-click engage for all intents and purposes. They're running something like a Twisted Fate and a Vi, who can very easily get on top of their targets with Destiny and Assault and Battery / the Vault Breaker. So I don't think that Dysfunctional should be the ones looking for the fights themselves, but rather letting the Elizabeth College's Bronze Boys start the fight with them and then trying to form some form of counter engage, especially because a silence from the Soraka and the Darius, who has Ghost and Flash, he keeps access to the backline. He's not stopping.
And also, if we look at these team comps, so there's one thing that I don't like about the Dysfunctional team, but there's a few things I do really like. So look at this Darius top lane. Firstly, he's not running teleport, so that's a lot of global pressure lost. Obviously, you're going for that lane dominant build, and he's obviously worked for him in the past, so he's going for what he's comfortable and what he's used to playing. But so the Darius top lane into Twisted Fate, Twisted Fate is not going to be able to outscale in the 1v1. That is going towards the Darius. Darius is going to be able to out heal. He's going to get the Merc treads. He's going to have the Ghost. So it's going to be very hard to kite him. As for the Udyr, once again, it's going to be very hard for anyone on the side of Bronze Boys to be able to 1v1 the Udyr. So you have these two major split pushers on the side lanes who are practically unstoppable, and then you have a high poke, high sustain mid lane of the Varus, Zoe, Soraka. So in this 1-3-1 comp, so it's going to be very hard to actually get anything done if you can't like catch someone out.
Yeah, and part of the worry is that I think if Dysfunctional can get a lead early, for example, if I was on the side of Dysfunctional, I'd say, hey, Udyr, come top lane. I'm running Ghost as a Darius, and this is a Twisted Fate, an unconventional top laner who, if you can get him, if you can kill him and get him behind, Twisted Fate will effectively become a null factor if you're able to get Darius far enough ahead to the point where he can force any engagement. So I would really love to see, for the side of Dysfunctional, Udyr focus one of the lanes. I would love top lane to get ahead because once a Darius gets rolling, it is so hard to stop. But get one of your lanes rolling ahead and then use that as your catalyst to take over the rest of the map.
I love how you specify the top lane, considering you're our top lane main. Like, you're just like, I never get ganked, but maybe this guy, I can vicariously live through him as he gets ganked. This is what it feels like.
I cannot confirm, nor can I deny that that is my opinion on the matter. So we'll have to see. As we are going to be loading ourselves into the game, of course, we do have, unfortunately, a bit of a spectator delay to ensure that, the teams aren't being given any information they shouldn't be. So we will be loading in. Now, Pro, we see the teams, we see the lineups, and I have to ask you the question that I ask you every week, every time we have a game together, which is, who do you believe will take this game? Do you have faith in Calvin Christian's school with their team of Dysfunctionals? Or do you think that Elizabeth College's Bronze Boys will be able to take the round?
I have to give it to the Dysfunctional team. I don't see a way I don't see a way that the split push is going to be beaten unless they get far enough ahead with some of their laners. Udyr is like one of the best 1v1 champions in the game. Darius is no one who can really burst him down. He's running Conquer, he's running Ghost. The only disadvantage they have is just a lack of global pressure. But the Twisted Fate's running Electrocute and Teleport, so he's looking for that kind of global ganks when he gets post 6. But if he ever does that, Udyr just needs to camper on top lane and then get first tower easy enough with the Darius Udyr combo.
All right, so we have one vote for the Dysfunctionals, and unfortunately that will also be a second vote as I'm also in a bit of a favor of the Dysfunctionals. I like the Darius top lane, and I really like the fact that, yes, Bronze Boys have a tremendous amount of global pressure with Twisted Fate, who is running both teleport and will of course have his Destiny up and available. But if there is one thing I have learned with being able to deal with a global composition, if you get the person with the global behind, suddenly the global threat is greatly reduced.
I do believe this is the first time we've ever agreed on a team, Iatos. This is a moment for the history books. It's like, dear diary, today Iatos agreed with me. I am depressed now.
I mean, I have the feeling that the one time we agree is the one time we're both incorrect. I feel like that's also the destiny to happen. So we'll have to find out as we do load ourselves in. Now, do we expect any early game shenanigans? They have a Twisted Fate, they have an Alistair and a Vi. If anything, I would expect Bronze Boys to try and look and try and force some sort of level 1 early cheese.
You'd think so, but neither side is. Oh, Bronze Boys aren't running ignite on their team at all, and in fact, the bot lane of the Dysfunctional team is they're actually running exhaust, just like the Alistair. So neither side is going for any kind of kill pressure in that bot lane, which is quite surprising considering it's an Alistair with Aftershock. And even the Tristana is running press the attack. So it's a very questionable as to like what their plan is in the bot lane.
Well, we'll have to find out, as it does appear as we have ourselves a little bit of a pause, which is a bit of unfortunate, but it gives us time to talk about what we're seeing. So as you said, there is a press the attack on the Tristana, which typically you do a fleet footwork style because it lets you have a bit more sustain in lane. But I do quite like it because, like we were saying earlier, if they can force a fight, if they can force an engagement on up against Inept Kangaroo and Jack in the early phases, they can get press the attack going. And then if Shakelone on this Vi comes down as well, the press the attack damage increase for Vi as well. Vi does a lot of damage. I think if they do a 3-man bot lane and get press the attack procced, it is definitely the correct move.
Indeed, and we're going to have to see what the Twisted Fate can do with any kind of lead that he may be able to get, because he is running Electrocute, so that is great for like that burst damage. I don't see him doing a lot against the Darius, especially because the Darius has the Ghost. Darius gets Merc Treads early. It's going to be very difficult for this Twisted Fate to kite like he wants to. So this top lane is going to look very questionable and not going to look to have any pressure to do anything with that teleport and that ultimate. So it's definitely going to be on the back of what the Cards can do if he can create any space for those roams.
I mean, I have faith in him. Twisted Fate top is not a conventional pick, but then again, in the high school esports league, if we look at the last week that we didn't exactly have a very conventional, at least in terms of the meta, a very conventional roster. And part of that, I believe, is comfort. And this is something that a lot of casters, I know myself, you, and other casters have had, which is, what do you pick? Do you pick what is meta, or do you pick what you have as a comfort as a player? And well, I think we both came to a bit of a conclusion on that.
Indeed, like obviously you pick what is comfortable for you as a player, but you also have to pick what works in with the team. So you can't pick something just because you think I will carry with this. You got to pick something because you're comfortable in this and the team's comfortable with you on this. So it might be the fact that we want to tank top lane, but you can't play tank, so you lock in your Twisted Fate because you can apply pressure elsewhere and do just as good a job doing another playing another role.
So we'll have to see how that goes. Comfort versus meta. Now, if you look at these lanes, we talked about the junglers earlier, and specifically what I would like to see out of Dunkertha, the Udyr for the side of Dysfunctional. Now we look on the other side of Shakelone. Now Vi is no slouch when it comes to early game movement. So do we expect, Vi to try and force something early? Maybe look at this top lane and try to get. Actually, it looks like there's a bit of a fight going on, and Dunker has no idea. He's like, wait a second, why is the jungler here? Shakelone forces him out of his jungle. Actually, he's taken so low, and Grey goes, that is first blood, and unfortunately the Twisted Fate is not long for this world.
Yeah, the Twisted Fate appears to have like disconnected of sorts, so this is quite unfortunate for the side of the Bronze Boys, and Twisted Fate getting behind is not a good thing. So not only was he like not really able to leash, he's not even able to get to lane, he's literally just sitting in base now with he's not able to do anything because he's obviously like DC'd of some sorts.
It seems, but neither team has called for a pause, so we'll have to see how that goes. But the side of the Udyr, this is a fantastic start. 2-0 on an Udyr of all champions who, if Udyr gets online, if Udyr gets ahead, I believe the phrase is opening the gates.
Those good old gates. But of course, the Vi's further behind because he doesn't have his blue buff. He's just taking his red buff then. Udyr has had a 3-buff start and a double kill under his belt. So he's sitting on a massive amount of gold right now.
Indeed, and that's going to be the great move forward for this Udyr, because if he's able to get, I suspect he's going to go for a high damage build. He is running the lethal tempo. So if he goes for a high damage build such as a Blood Razor and a Trinity Force, you were saying before there's no one on the side of Bronze Boys who can match the split push. If he goes for that build, there is no way even a Vi is going to be able to stop him if he gets ahead of her by half an item to a full item.
The only really way I can think of is if he goes for like a kind of like a glass cannon build for that split push, but they just continually just collapse on him. So that's gonna be the one thing they're gonna have to like be able to communicate this 1-3-1 comp continuously, so you can just apply pressure mid and do this wave clear, which is good with the Zoe Varus combo. But then in addition, they can just continually apply pressure on the sides So, because no one can 1v1 the Darius, no one can 1v1 the Udyr, so they have to decide on one lane to collapse on while they're losing the other two, especially if they've fallen behind. But it does look like the Twisted Fate has now come back, so we're hoping to see a bit more of a competitive matchup now.
Hopefully we'll see that, but you're saying they need to focus on getting at least one of the lanes ahead. Which lane do they look at now? Because top lanes, well, not looking exactly top and pretty for them. Do they want to try and get this Zoe behind, get their focus this mid lane now? Because like, is mid or bot lane surely has to feel like the options, but which one do they go for?
Well, considering how far the Twisted Fate is behind already, the Darius has literally just been free farming, getting damage on this tower. Bot lane may be the best option to try and lock down, because if you can lock down the Soraka, that is brilliant. Because Soraka is the main one there in that bot lane that you want to get rid of, because obviously she's like the ambulance, like she's the ambulance of the bot lane, but very immobile. As for the Zoe, a Vi can lock down a Zoe hardcore, because as much as it doesn't seem like it, Zoe's actually really immobile.
Exactly. Everyone says you look at Zoe with, of course, the portal jump ultimate. And everyone says, she's extremely mobile. But remember, portal jump, she dashes away, and then she comes right back to where she ran away from. And I've seen a lot of Zoes, myself included, panic, use the ultimate, get away, and then realize, wait a second, I'm going right back into their waiting hands. So I would actually quite like to see Shakelone getting on this Vi to try force something around the mid lane, but once again, we're seeing Udyr. The junglers are about to hold hands a bit, and it looks like Udyr is actually forcing Shakelone into the Dragon Pit. And oh, that was such a good bear stand stun. And oh no, this is everything that has gone wrong with this Vi.
Could anything more have gone wrong in that point right there? Got stunned got stunned by the bear stance, and then failed the flash, and so was not able to escape. So this is disastrous, and we have a 23 CS lead in the top lane as well. There is nothing going right for Bronze Boys right now. And Disfunctional is not looking dysfunctional in the slightest.
Exactly, they're looking extremely well oiled. And what I like is the fact that all of their aggression, all of their advantage has been generated off the Udyr. None of the lanes, despite the fact that none of the lanes have been like, you know what, we can force our own pressure here. They are waiting for the Udyr to dictate the pace. The Udyr invaded down bot, invaded the jungle side and said, yeah, I can take this, and Darius didn't need to come and rotate there. Udyr did a fantastic job running down the Vi. Vi, a bit unfortunate that she couldn't get the Vault Breaker across, and then I mean everyone has done a panic flash into a wall, so there's always another chance.
I have no idea what you're on about. I've never panic flashed like that in my life. Ever.
You're a liar. I'm just gonna call you straight out, you're a liar. You may have been playing this game for a while, my friend, but everybody, and I mean that without exception, has done that.
I have no idea. What is a failed flash? I'm not aware that this thing exists.
Oh, but no. This feels a bit personal. I can't tell if he's being. I think
he's DC'd. He is DC'd.
And Bro Science, unfortunately, is not so much of a bro as he claims himself. His first kill of the game.
You do realize what Bro Science is, yeah? Bro Science is the guy at the gym who like goes and.
So you.
Yeah, it's the guy at the gym who says, "Oh, you gotta eat like 7 meals a day. You gotta lift like this." And it's pretty much like the bro science of like how to get big. So this is exactly how a bro science person does it. It's like he's acts like he's on top of it. And right now he doesn't have to act it like it. He is on top of it right now, to be honest.
I mean, you're not wrong. We look at the CS. He's got 30 CS advantage top lane. Effectively, Bro Science is top lane. This is Bro Science's top lane more than anything else. So I think both teams need to try and consolidate their losses here. And unfortunately, Grey Ghost is having a few net issues, which is a little bit of a shame to see. The fact that like I would really have loved to see this team at Twisted Fate have the opportunity to go toe for toe against this Darius, because I think he could have pulled something off. But unfortunately, Darius, if we look at the values of gold, Darius is sitting at 2,300 gold, 1,000 over the Twisted Fate.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate, to be honest. And the Darius isn't even backed yet, so he's just pushing this lead. He's doing a lot of damage to this tower, and the Vi is having to go up top side just to hold the tower and deny first tower. And this is not what you want your jungler to do. You don't want. Oh no.
That was actually a really good Vault Breaker from Shakelone, avoids the Decimate out of Darius. So I do like the adaptation, that the fact that Bronze Boys are trying to compensate for the fact that their top lane is having a few issues, but I also quite like the fact that Tristana is scaling. And I still have of the belief that if Tristana is able to get online, as we see in the mid lane, quite a bit of damage, but if this Tristana can get online, she can deal with the Darius. Tristana is mobile enough to stop a Darius from getting on top of her with the Buster Shot and with the Rocket Jump. So if they get to the later stages of the game, she can handle that. I worry, are they going to reach that, as Darius will be claiming that first tower blood for himself. And Shakelone, you're 2 levels down. He does have no mana though, so you have every opportunity, but unfortunately you are bleeding a lot, my friend, and that is Conqueror Darius for you.
That Conqueror did so much work there, and even though the Darius hasn't backed once and has no items, he had a 2-level advantage, he had all the bleed stacks, and the Conqueror just kept refreshing those bleed stacks as every damage ticked. So he's doing so much true damage on top of the high base stats he has. So that's not something you do not want to take extended trade to the Darius in any stretch of the imagination.
And we were talking before about the fact that Darius is an abusive top laner. He is fantastic at generating, being a lane bully and abusing players who aren't fully adaptive to play against him. And I expect Disfunctional to try and abuse this back. I think they should now swap their lane. I think they should keep the Darius on the top side. Udyr should constantly be invading the top side jungle and try and force this advantage that they definitely have.
And it does appear that the Twisted Fate is reconnected finally. Okay, so it does look like the Twisted Fate may be coming back for it. They may be able to try bring this back, but this is a long way back in there. 4,000 gold deficit. Twisted Fate has 8 CS at 9 minutes and 0-2, and this Darius is looking like an absolute monster. And actually building towards, like I said before, that Triforce, considering he has the Conqueror.
Exactly, the Trinity Force you were mentioning earlier, as we see an attempted gank on the bot lane, a bit unfortunate. But the Conqueror with the Trinity Force and the Darius, he can auto-attack more often with the help of the Stinger. The Sheen is a fantastic, because Darius doesn't use his abilities a ton, and he usually spaces them out well enough that the Sheen resets each and every time. And then the Phage, I mean, Darius with Ghost is hard enough to get away from. Darius with the Darius with the Phage, with the increased movement speed haste, even harder to get away from. As we see the first dragon going down. Unfortunately, Shaco trying his best to steal it, but it is not enough, and he tried his best, but didn't even get the chance to flash outwards. Chains of Corruption locked him down.
And this is absolute disaster right now. They've lost their Drake. The jungler tried to go on for the steal. This Vi is 0-4, and he is a good 15 CS behind the Udyr. The Udyr is popping off right now. He's been at every point in this game, just punishing the Vi, and it's not a massive difference in the lanes. The mid lane and the bot lane are practically equal. It's just this jungle and the top lane who keeps on DCing because the lack of pressure has been suffering because of it.
Exactly. So it's a bit of a worry for that. But Disfunctional are doing a good job abusing their strengths. And when I mean that, they've got an advantage top side of the map. Their Darius is infinitely stronger than Twisted Fate, and their Udyr is stronger than the Vi. And the fact that they are trying to work around that is a good sign, especially when they verse other teams, because that's an advantage that you need to, okay, every game you need to think to yourself, what is an advantage that we have over the other team? Well, in this game, your top laner is infinitely stronger than the opposing top laner, and your jungler can dictate and pick fights wherever he chooses at this point. So if they just need to keep playing around these strengths, keep working around their tempos, and if they can keep this aggression up, they can start looking at Rift Herald as the next major objective. They can start looking at the next dragon. They can start forcing turrets down with their other members, and if they can start doing that and start playing very objectively, they've already got a 4k gold advantage with only 1 turret taken. Imagine what happens when Rift Herald goes down, the second dragon goes down, and they start taking these tier 1 turrets.
And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize with macro play is you have the winning lane near where the next objective is. So, for example, you do have the, nice little Zoe burst coming in.
Oh boy, Zoe's in quite a good position here. Trying to do his best to fight back, and unfortunately the Carthage does flash himself away, but Zoe's actually super low, burns the barrier, and the real question is Requiem up and available? No, it isn't. I think Requiem was used right before he died. So he casted Requiem, then he died, cancelling the cooldown, which is a little devastating.
A little bit of a misplay there, but I was just saying before with the any kind of global objective is the it's basically with the dragon or with your Rift Herald or with your Baron, you want the winning lane to have pressure around that objective so that they can easily collapse if your jungler decides to go for it. Does look like Darius is just taking everything from the Twisted Fate as well.
Darius is running Demolish. He's got Resolve second here, and he's running Demolish. And the fact that he is ahead allows him to abuse it. Now, I think part Darius could have definitely forced the dive there, and I think that Bro Science is being a little bit kind, being like, I could dive you, I could, hunch to Zuru, but he's giving Gregos a chance to catch up. I feel, actually, as I say that, Gregos forced the flash out of there. He was caught by the apprehend.
So one of the big issues with running the demolish, and why a lot of people don't do it anymore, is because bone plating is so strong for any kind of trades, and it does do a lot of damage reduction. And if this Twisted Fate had actually been in the lane the majority of the time, it might have been a problem because of the extra harass and lane harass that Twisted Fate can do, being a ranged into melee matchup. But of course, in this case, it's worked out really well. It's allowed him to get the tower damage down. So kudos to him. But in a lot of cases, it's not run simply because of the riskiness of the playstyle. Gives great reward, but it's amazing risk.
I mean, if we look at the champion, Darius, is that sort of the nature of Darius? High risk, high reward. If you get ahead, you are tremendously strong. But, bro, if you recall a game we've casted recently, if you fall behind, oh boy, do you find yourself in a river without any paddle?
I do believe there was a Jax Darius game where the Jax absolutely dumpstered, and I do believe that team went on to win the Throwdown tournament that just passed. So it was quite an amazing play with the top laner, just being able to abuse this Darius. And that is one of the weaknesses of Darius, but of course, here's the complete opposite. This Darius is doing everything he wants to do, and then some.
Exactly, and if you look, once again, the top laner and the jungle, the two biggest strengths for the side of Disfunctional, are abusing the fact that they are ahead. They forced Vi out of her own jungle. They forced a flash out of her, which we caught the latter end of, and it's really good. It looks like he is going to go force Rift Herald, which I think is the correct decision here. And now, when they do secure this Rift Herald, because I very much doubt that Bronze Boys are strong enough to contest it, where do they look? Do they try and force open the middle lane with this Rift Herald? They look at the bot lane, or do they simply be, hey, we can keep shoving in top lane to end because this tier 2 turret is not going to be lasting long?
I do believe that the mid tower is the next one to go for, or you try and go for the inhibitor tower. But doesn't Gregos might be suffering?
Gregos, the ghost has been popped, and unfortunately, in comes. Oh, I was getting ready for the dunk, but unfortunately, no dunk is required.
It's not really something that you want to waste a dunk on, a 0-3 Twisted Fate, when you have almost Flame Horizon them at 15 minutes. But, there's a nice disengage from the side of Soraka and, Varus.
The Vault Breaker was charged, but unfortunately no such luck. Actually, the headbutt goes in, but this Soraka is just healing him up, and they can't fully commit to a fight, partly because look at the items. It is a Rage Blade up against the buildings of a Zeal and the Storm Razor, so they can't force an item, and that is the Rift Herald dropped mid. The top lane turret's surely going to fall. The mid lane tier 2 is fallen already with a lot of damage going on to the inhib. Bronze Boys are unfortunately breaking at the seams.
And that is quite unfortunate, to be honest. So now they've lost 4 towers. They're down.
They're going in here, actually. So Chizio gets a stun onto the Soraka. They know who to target down. The Witch comes out, but unfortunately so does the Requiem. And the Song of Death counteracts the Witch. Tristana jumping left, right, and center. One more hit, and double kill coming in for the Tristana. But the Ignite goes down from the Zoe, and that does pick her up. Really cheeky headbutt, forcing him under turret, and Gray coming in with the gold card. He does have Destiny up and available if they choose to pull it, but considering how far they are behind, that was a fantastic opportunity for Bronze Boys.
Honestly, and I'd just like to say this in memory of our great Tico, looks like Bronze Boys have started playing League of Legends today, guys. Welcome to the game, Bronze Boys. You're playing Disfunctional today, and I wish you good luck.
Yeah, indeed. Tico, of course, is another cast that we'll be having at the second cast later tonight, which we can talk about a bit more as we advance. But I do want to talk about items briefly, because we were talking earlier about 8.11 and the changes that came in, and I only got to mention it briefly. Adept Kangaroo on this Varus is going for that Rage Blade sort of build with the
Ruinous Hurricane, yes.
The Ruinous Hurricane as a second. Jenna has got himself bits and pieces of his crypt build, but he looks like he's going to be building his Rapid Fire Cannon first.
Yes, Rapid Fire into BF Sword. So what he's going for is he's going for the stronger 2-item power spike as opposed to Storm Razor first item, which gives you a better first item power spike, and then still good third item power spike. So he's relinquished the fact that he's not going to be able to hard carry this game. He wasn't getting a lead, and then he's realized that he's not really able to do much. So he's looking to get that true damage from the IE second, and just being able to start doing some work when it comes to those mid-game team fights.
So he's opted to, because a lot of people when they build very statically. They build the same items on each time of each champion with very little deviation. Here, it looks like Jenna is adapting to the game sense itself, which is a really good step forward. Because a lot of players, like I said earlier, will simply build everything the exact same way. So really good adaptation there. Now, speaking of adaptation, there is a question I have to ask you as we see Sergio is in a little bit of trouble here. I don't think he's going to be getting this one out of this one just off yet. He does have the Aftershock and the Unbreakable Will, which he does choose to use in a double man knockup, but unfortunately Inept Kangaroo is free hitting away. Manages to live. I actually genuinely cannot believe he managed to live there. That was impressive.
That Unbreakable Will, so contrary to popular belief, Unbreakable Will is actually an amazing ability. It is not extra armor and magic resist, which a lot of like things like Void Staff and Last Whisper will counter. It's damage reduction. So it's just flat damage reduction, so it ignores 70% of
Oh
damage.
no, Vi tried to do something. Unfortunately, she gets caught out by the chains of corruption and locked down. Now, they're doing a 1-4 split push, but I asked the question, do they really need to be defending their outer tier 1 turret like that when they are losing their inhibitor? Pull your man back at this point.
It's one of those things where they're so far behind, in order to stall out the game, you have to...
Oh, the head flash coming in from Chizio and knocks in the Uji. They forced the flash out of him. That was one hell of a cheeky hex flash. Unfortunately, Grey Ghost is in Leather Dribble, and the dunk coming through onto Grey Ghost. That is going to be a free inhibitor, and the Bronze Boys now need to give up this tier 1 turret because they've lost their inhibitor at 18 minutes.
18-minute inhibitor. They've lost 2 Drakes. They lost the Rift Herald. Baron's up in like less than just over a minute.
Oh my lord, a second dunk coming in. Pro Science locks out Shaco. Shaco doing his best to fight back, but the Ghost and Flash coming out. One more hit. The Justana gets the shutdown onto the Darius.
And that is actually huge. That is 550 gold bounty, because bounties have changed and it allows comeback victories to happen more likely, but that is still a 10,000 gold deficit, and you've just lost 2 towers because of that, on top of your inhibitor and your inhibitor tower.
Worse is the ultimate end of the day. At the end of the day, they could, if they just stayed at the tier 1 turret, Darius, I believe, would have taken their entire base. So the adaptation is good, maybe a little bit slow.
Indeed, like I do believe, because at the end of the day, you lost those 2 bot lane towers anyway. So I think the better choice would have been to just match the Darius, try and collapse on him, and you would have lost a lot less in the first place, because you almost lost your Vi, you did lose your Twisted Fate. So it's one of those things where you have to, sometimes you have to give up certain objectives in order just to stall it out, and that's all they need to do, because Twisted Fate can scale like a beast. Karthus does a lot of damage. This Alistair with the Unbreakable Will is going to be an amazing tank. So it's a question of, they have to get these picks, they have to stall out this game, and they have to do this damage.
Okay, so if they do have to stall this out, like you're saying, which I truly believe they do, they are sitting at 10k gold disadvantage. How are they going to be stalling out this game? Because surely it's more than just, oh, we need to stop contesting objectives like for Dragon and Baron. As we see a bit of a fight going out, actually they're focusing down the Sorok, which is a really good call. Flash and heal coming out, as well as a teleport coming in. Chains of Corruption, though, is really good to lock them out. And the teleport coming in from Twisted Fate, which means there is no one to stop the Darius on the top side of the map. Grey Ghost trying to force something, but I feel they might be a little bit too far pushed.
So what they have to do in order to stall this out is they've got a few things.
Shaco is in a little bit of trouble there. He does have Flash as well as Assault and Battery. So he burns the Flash. The Assault and Battery is up and available, but they held on to it. They really wanted to get the rest of their team a little bit closer, and they're really struggling to force a fight here. While all this is happening, that's a free inhibitor on the top side.
And it's one of those things where Bro Science is literally that guy at the gym being like, hey guys, to get a big chest, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And
oh my lord, the Assault and Battery coming into the Zoe, but unfortunately, Police Brutality is not okay, and Zoe takes her out.
yeah, I was gonna make a joke about the Varus being of skin tone, but that just not.
Oh, Dad, bro, come on, man. We gotta remember where we are. We gotta remember now. Where we are is unfortunately a 12k gold disadvantage with a Darius who, 4-1, he has a Trinity Force and Hysterics Gauge, while 2 members are forced to deal with him. Meanwhile, a lovely headbutt pulverize from Sir Chizio, but unfortunately, my dear sir, there is no one to follow up on your engage.
So right now, what Bronze Boys have to do in order to come back is have to use the fact that they've got a Karthus ultimate. They've got the Twisted Fate with the ultimate and also the teleport. They've got the Electrocute on the Twisted Fate as well, and in this case, this could actually help them. They're looking to get these picks with the gold card, with the Vi lockdown, with the Alistair knock-up, and just get these 1 picks, like a pick here, a pick there, and just going for that. But it does look like does look like some people might be looking to move on to the next one. We're not completely sure.
I mean, there is only one game of the night. It's a best of 1 series, so I mean, at the end of the day, this is a very rough game for the side of Bronze Boys. But if you look at it in terms of their gameplay itself, it isn't inherently bad. More than anything else, unfortunately, what has hurt the Bronze Boys is their connection to the game. I mean, if the Twisted Fate hadn't been having internet issues in the earlier phase of the game, this game would have, and I believe would have gone completely differently. But unfortunately, you have to adapt for the situation you're in, and the situation that Disfunctional in says a 22-minute Baron is okay.
Indeed, this 22-minute Baron, it's going down fast because the Udyr, but of course the Requiem has come out, and it's like not really going to do much because the Karthus is not ahead, is actually just quite lackluster compared to the rest of the team. So it's the only thing that he's got is 182 CS, which is quite amazing that he's got that much CS considering how the game's been going, but it's still not enough to actually like give him the decent stats that he needs to be able to do much impact with his ultimate.
Exactly. It's a bit unfortunate when you have a good game like this and then the rest of the map just sort of falls apart underneath you. So we'll have to see how it goes. Now, Baron is secure, which means the split push is going to continue to happen. Now, that means that the top lane's already gone. The mid lane and the bottom lane are the last two inhibitor turrets that are standing, as well as the Ocean Dragon is up for the side of Disfunctional take. Now, do you think that Disfunctional should look to take this next dragon? Or actually, it looks like they might just take the AD carry, who is a little pushed up. The Alistar is here, so the Headbutt Pulverize combo is pretty good. Biosense exhausted out. Chain of Corruption coming on to the Tristana, who is just free hitting away, but unfortunately, she's taking out super low. Lovely Assault and Battery, as well as the Wish coming in. The Requiem, unfortunately, is not available, so the Song of Death is not enough. But I'll tell you what is death, the dunk coming in from Brosine, who has one dunk. He picks himself up another kill. Karthus did manage to get shut down Inert Kangaroo, but that is unfortunately a double kill for the Darius, who is now sitting at a 6-1 at 24 minutes.
Well, this Darius has definitely flamed Horizon the Twisted Fate. Through no fault of the Twisted Fate, to be honest, it's like the connection issues. But I do believe that this game might be coming to a close in the next 5 minutes. They do have Baron buff for most of their members. They were just able to like 2v4 and get 3 kills just before.
No, Tristana tried to force a kill onto Jack, but unfortunately, I like the aggression, but in a game where you are this far behind, adaptation is absolutely critical. And my big worry is the fact that, yeah, you can, like, adaptation is key. What adaptation can Bronze Boys make that can recover this game?
Better internet connection.
Unfortunately, that is not what's going to happen, as Sergizio is forced out of there, but still goes down to the bleed of Bro Science. That is going to be both Nexus turrets falling and the Nexus falling itself. So Disfunctional take the game, but they do leave the question of Bronze Boys. Are they like you've watched this game about this team and you think to yourself, well, this surely they are a better team than this. Next week's game, if they're able to keep themselves stable, I really would love to see how they go. Actually watch them being able to go blow for blow rather than what we saw today, which was more a myriad of technical difficulties more than anything else.
Like, I'll be honest, there was no real issue with Bronze Boys aside from the fact that the Twisted Fate DC'd. You notice early that the reason why the Vi got invaded and killed by the Udyr early was simply because Gregos had a DC and was not able to assist. Therefore, you had pressure of the Darius. The Udyr is an amazing 1v1er, and then Vi's trying to protect both the disconnected Twisted Fate and trying to take the blue buff. So already at a disadvantage, and Vi didn't even have a leash that early. And then from there, Udyr just snowballed his lead. The Darius had no competition at all. So I do believe that this game is in no way indicative of which team was better. It's more the fact that the Twisted Fate has had a terrible internet connection.
I completely agree with you. So that's a bit unfortunate to see today, but that is going to be our game, at least for tonight, completed, my dear pro. So that was the Tasmanian round of Elizabeth College going up against Calvin Christian School. Now, there is a second game today at 7 o'clock. So that will be, I really encourage everybody to tune in, because not only will be two different teams, I believe it is the Western Australian teams going up against each other, but you'll have two completely new casters in the next of Tico and Mr. Encryption. So be really, really pleased to encourage you to come down and witness those two teams going up against one another. So as you were saying though, Pro, really unfortunate for the Bronze Boys, and I really want to see them actually be able to play without having, the technical difficulties that they had today.
Indeed, Yatos. And I'd just like to give a big shout out to, once again, to the people who are organizing this. Absolutely fabulous job to the students, to the teachers, and hope to see you guys all back at 7 p.m. with the next pair of casters. I do believe it is Mr. Encryption and Tico, and they're going to do a fabulous job doing round 2 of tonight.
Indeed. So on behalf of us sitting here at what effectively could be treated as a caster desk, thank you everyone for coming to this particular round, and we hope that you enjoyed the 7 p.m. round with Mr. Encryption and Tico. It will be Joseph Banks Secondary College Team number 1 going up against Applecross SHS Team B. So remember, it's a 7 o'clock time, so in just over an hour's time, I believe, an hour and 10 minutes time, please be there. And unfortunately for myself and Pro, that is it from us tonight. So we'll hope to see you next week for the 3rd week of the High School Esports League.